Yeah, exactly. Because I know every administration, they typically bring in their own people to be able to continue on what their goals and what kind of policies they
Sure.
want to implement and whatnot.
Yes, although, you're going to get really tired of me saying yes,
No
but,
worries.
but what you say is absolutely true. Every administration does that. Over time, over the last few decades, the pattern has been to go deeper and deeper. So usually government is a balance between, if you will, bureaucrats, technical experts, long-term people, or to give it a more positive label, the civil service,
Right.
right? And so if you're running the post office or you're running the water system or you're running the army, right, you have professionals to do it,
Mhm.
right? And the question is, how far do you go in replacing those professionals with political appointees? So every administration will do the very top level. It will have its own Secretary of Defense. But most administrations would not second guess the generals, the Joint
Yeah.
Chiefs of Staff, the professionals. One of the things unusual about the Trump administration, it's been willing to get politics deeper into that. Same with science. The Every administration would want oversight over this, want to decide, well, how much budget should we put in this or that? And that's true left, right. The What's new is deciding to go 2, 3, 4 layers down, replacing the people who have professional technical expertise and knowledge with political appointees. Now, that's something that's extreme right now, and I think a big issue with the Trump administration, but they didn't start it. It's something that's been going on, both Democrats and Republicans, more and more and more as our politics becomes more dominated by presidents trying to get their way
Mhm.
rather than by a more cooperative structure among the different parts of government.
Right. Yeah. And good example of that too, because with the whole bringing it to 3, 4 levels down with Benghazi, for example, because I had read Ben Shapiro's book about the people versus Obama, and one of the cases that he was referencing was the Benghazi, and the way that the whole summary with that went was that there was already plans for the U.S. embassy in Benghazi to be attacked, and there was prior warning in advance. And there's private messages, emails, and different form of letters that were sent to the Obama administration to let them know that, hey, we need more security, we need more lines of defense, because they were stripped bare minimum. And that was a situation where they were let known long time in advance, so they knew about it. And then when it actually came down to it, it the blame was primarily shifted to people that was 3, 4 levels below, and to where it's that political alliance where they have that bias, if that makes sense, to where they're having their own people in those low levels to kind of help mitigate what their goals and intents are.
So, yeah, this is sort of mixing together two things. And I'm not especially expert on Libya and Benghazi and all that. So, but I think there are two truths. These are both things that are true in what you're saying, but they're sort of different.
Yeah.
One is that we hardly ever succeed in holding the top people accountable. The blame always gets shifted to someone farther down. For my
Yeah.
generation, you can think of this as the Lieutenant Calley problem. Lieutenant Calley was a guy who got court-martialed in the Vietnam War for something that had clearly come from higher ups in the military hierarchy who made him take the blame for it.
Right.
But there are lots and lots of examples of this. So I think that's a widespread truth that the blame will get shifted down. It'll be hard to hold the real top people accountable.
Right.
But the other thing is who is in this chain of administration or communication, right?
Right.
Do you have diplomats in a country who have some expertise and knowledge about that country, who maybe speak the language? And one of the famous comments in the Iranian Revolution, 1979, is the US Embassy didn't have um, many people. I can't remember, did they have one or something? But people who spoke Farsi, who spoke the local language, who could get the information in good ways. And so what I would point to, and again, I think it's grown across both Democrats and Republicans. I think it's unusually extreme in the current administration, but it's not just Republicans who've done this,
Yeah.
is trying to substitute people who are loyal to your political cause for people who actually know how to get something done in a particular area. And
Right.
so, it can be diplomacy and how to actually get the facts about a country you're working in, which comes up over and over again. It can be much more technical things, engineering or emergency management.
Yeah.
One of the big issues with Hurricane Katrina was, did the Federal Emergency Management Association know what to do? Well, there was somebody who had no technical knowledge, but had been a campaign donor who
Right.
was in charge of it, who ended up being in charge of trying to get relief to all the victims of that hurricane in New Orleans and Louisiana, who basically didn't know what he's doing.
Right.
And so, it's a tension. It's not an easy, clear cut, one side good, one side bad thing, because democracy depends on the people being able to elect a government that has some control over the bureaucracy.
Right.
But if that government, it's like what we were talking about at the beginning, if that political government isn't humble about knowledge and thinks it knows everything, and it starts replacing all of the technical specialists with its own political loyalists, you're going to get bad information, and you're going to get groupthink. And a famous Democratic example of it is the Bay of Pigs invasion,
Hmm.
in which the President Kennedy, right, orders an invasion that his advisors have all come to believe is a really good idea, but they've kind of influenced each other in a group, and they've selected information, and they don't really know on the ground, and it turns out to be a terrible fiasco.
Yeah.
So, again, it could be Democrat or Republican. The military, you want civilian oversight of the military. That's a basic idea of democracy. But oversight doesn't mean second guessing, like when somebody has been court-martialed and there's been a whole official military process of
Hmm.
determining the guilt, to then just say, hey, I'm going to overrule all the generals and all the colonels, and I'm just going to change that because I like this person's ideology.
Yeah. And I think especially part of what you're saying at the beginning of this, where you're talking about the political bias that comes with that when you replace those people, and how it impacts our ability to respond to such things as hurricanes. With the article that you had sent me prior, or the essay that you sent me with the COVID disaster in America and the world, you were highlighting that, for example, with the handlings of the COVID response, because of the political think the term football is going back and forth, where we got the left and the right fighting over things with such as the stimulus check and everything, and
Yeah,
it's just causing a more worse of a ripple effect.
absolutely. So you've got, one part of that, which is trying to fight COVID, in which you've got real sort of questions of public health policy. Do we invest in trying to get more emergency room beds and more ventilators? Do we tell people to wear masks? And there can be differences of opinion that are legitimate, but it's pretty dangerous when these become politicized. When
Hmm.
this is a matter of prove you're a real leftist, prove you're a real rightist by whether you wear a mask or not. And in fact, we need the mask wearing for public health reasons.
Hmm.
And then, as you just suggested, it also affects things like the extent to which the government gives any kind of financial help, whether it's a stimulus or a relief package or whatever else. Um, millions of people lose their jobs. Do you actually provide more unemployment or not? That's a question. And you might have an opinion that we shouldn't spend too much money, right? I might have
Right.
an opinion we should take care of the workers better. But it's a problem when that becomes simply one party versus the other party, and no ability to figure out the actual policy that would do the best job or to reach a compromise. And
Yeah.
it becomes, that's extremism again, polarization. We're not going to compromise. We're going to, let people starve if we have to have our way.